Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up.
A place where we inform.
Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
You gotta eat what you kill. You gotta go out there. You gotta hunt for your meals.
We all have that ability to connect with people, to be that motivational person in somebody's life.
You gotta let people know there's certain lines you don't cross, and that there's gonna be consequences if you do.
Man up.
If you are an adult and you are in a relationship, that person's emotions are not your responsibility.
Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
The devil, during slavery, destroyed the masculinity or manhood of the so-called Negro. No man. No man. Right now you got to be trained all over again to be a man.
When someone is obligated to do something, it is binding upon them to do it. And failure to do it causes reaction.
Man up.
Position make you rich. I don't have that type of richness. My richness is life forever.
If that people knew their glorious past, if that people knew their glorious past, if that people knew their glorious past, then they would be more inclined to respect themselves.
I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job, is to spark somebody else watching us.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up.
A place where we inform.
Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
You want to tell me about yourself? Go get your friends. I'll tell you who you are based on who your friends are.
Don't just live and die. That's an ugly existence. Make your life matter. Make your life count. Live a life where people can actually mourn you for the things you left behind, not just because you were around and existed.
We need strong black nuclear family.
Yes. Yes.
That's what it is. Mother, father, son, daughter, all in the same house with a focus on the family unit as a whole.
We had Tulsa, Atlanta, New Jersey, Detroit. We had Rosewood. We had Black Wall Streets all over.
The Republicans aren't for us, but the Democrats aren't for us either. And we should have no alliance to any political party. We only have alliance to what is in our own best interest.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up.
A place where we inform.
Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
At the end of the day, as men in the community, we must stand together and be counted, because people look to us for guidance, leadership, and protection. And if we are not about that business, we are not on our job. Here we have grown-ass man conversations in the spirit of that purpose. Anthony Malcolm, Bobby Drake, Major Gage, we are. This is Manifestations 2020.
Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
Oh yeah, what's going on? What's going on?
Yo.
All right, what's cracking? Good to see y'all, brothers, man. Manifestations 2020, we in the building.
Apparently, Clark Kent is very real. That phone booth, Presto Changeo is something else, man.
I know. Check them out. We got my man We got my man Aunt Malcolm up in the building. Anthony Malcolm, Bobby Drake, and I am Major Gage. We are Manversations 2020. Welcome to Manversations 2020 as we about to get live like we do. What's up, fellas? What's cracking?
What's good? What's good?
Ain't nothing, man. I'm good.
I want to start off by saying I apologize to all my all our fans out there on Manversations. I know I have a IG platform personally. That's why I said fans, but I mean, as far as Manversation, our fans, I want to apologize because Instagram issues is going on. Instagram is currently experiencing a platform-wide issue with the RTMP streaming, affecting third-party streaming service. This issue seems to be impacting users differently based on their location. Our team is in touch with the engineers at Meta to gather more details. So if you haven't been watching us, it's been multiple times I've been trying to go on Instagram. I know I haven't let y'all fellas know because I thought it was on my end. Now it comes out that it is an Instagram issue that's been going on for a couple of weeks now. So be patient with us. Once Instagram get on, then the Instagram fam, y'all can come over to the Instagram and see what it is. So that way you have it on all platforms. But for right now, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube and Facebook. Those two platforms right there will get you on live to discuss anything and type up conversation and dialogue in the chat. So I just wanted to share that information with people that might have seen that we're not on Instagram live like we were before. All right.
Yeah. And apologies, man. But real talk, man. YouTube is the spot. You know what I'm saying? We live on YouTube. We're on Instagram too, but we live on YouTube. And all our flyers say follow the YouTube. YouTube is a little more consistent than Instagram as far as, having these type of technical issues. So, guys, if you're not following us on YouTube, please make sure that you follow us on YouTube. So, hopefully, you got the backup plan. You ain't got to miss nothing. You know what I'm saying?
And also, I'll also remember that the more platforms you follow anybody on, the better, because once one platform go down, you're not searching to figure out what's going on. So always select as many platforms as possible.
Yes, sir.
Point of failure. You always locked in. You always clicked in. The left arm don't work. I still got the right hand. So
facts.
Good to go.
All right, fellas. So real quick before we get into it, any announcements, any happenings that y'all want to share real quick? Go ahead, shoot off, pop off. What you got? Anything? Yes, no, maybe so. If not, I'll just jump right into it because it's a lot.
Oh, shout out to Chicago. The fathers in Chicago. I believe it's Chicago. Might have been either Texas or Chicago. But some brothers in Chicago, you know what I'm talking about?
The dance.
Yeah. No. It's either Chicago or Texas. Some brothers had came together and organized celebrating fatherhood.
Yeah.
So they're out there doing great work, acknowledging the fathers out there that are doing great work and also just being a great father to their children in the community. So shout out to those fellas organizing that and putting something positive out there for these young men. Because like I told you guys before on the last show, I'm inside a mental health group for Black men. And man, when I tell you it's heavy, it's heavy. And the other day they had a woman come in there. She was asking questions about her husband. And some of the fellas kind of felt some type of way. Other fellas was giving her some advice. But, sometimes we have so much going on with women in our spaces on social media and things like that. A lot of times men just want to be with each other to express themselves, because once you start getting involved with the women, not saying that they will critique them, but you never know what will come out of that. So some of the guys was like, hey, man, I understand that you want to find out what you can do to get your husband to get back in love with you or communicate with you. But, rightfully so, this is a place for us Black men,
Yeah.
So I understood what he was saying. I just gave her a nice little long paragraph that says, I commend you for trying to work with your husband, but unless he comes in here and specifically say what's wrong with it, we can give you all the advice and it's not going to correct it. He has to speak on his issues and we'll give him the correct advice that he needs to take the channel down.
Right.
Let me just also say real quick, not going to get too long with it. It's not that kind of day to day.
Go ahead.
But for the ladies who do happen to find themselves in men's spaces like that, first and foremost, if you are a man that happens to find yourself in a space for women, or if you're a woman that happens to find yourself in a space for men, respect and also treat that as a privilege. If it's a space that's designed specifically for that group and you're allowed in there, please understand that you are, by all definitions, a guest. You are a distinguished guest, but you are a guest nevertheless. If you are allowed to be in that space, treat it as a privilege and not some kind of jokey joke type thing. I know people just like to be in groups for the hell of being in groups, but if you're in those spaces, treat it like the privilege that it is. And I would ask that if that's not what you're there for, please have the maturity to up and leave. And also, if you're an admin in those spaces, be very mindful of the men or women that you allow in that space. Because unfortunately, you have a lot of trauma that is created, or a lot of negative experiences that the genders have with each other. You have women that have some real traumatic experiences with men. You have men that have had some really traumatic experiences with women. And far too often, what happens is when these groups that have a specific purpose let too much of those that it doesn't apply to in there, what happens is there can be division of purpose, and there could also be a lot of trolling going on. I was on a post today in Instagram earlier where the post was geared specifically towards struggles of Black men, namely Black boys, in the education system. A lot of the feedback was constructive and positive, but I did see one comment that had a whole bunch of sub-comments on it where the woman was basically erasing men and saying, well, wouldn't this also apply to Black girls because they come up in the same environments that Black men have? And it's like, mother, father. The post is talking about Black males.
Right.
The information statistics is talking about Black males. It even highlights that Black males, specifically based on what this is talking about, are subject to it more than any other demographic, which includes Black females. These specific issues affect Black males more than anyone else, including more than Black females. And here you go talking about, well, you see, I think it applies to Black girls too, because my cousin, she also saw this. Shut your rap.
Man,
when
look.
you do that, it completely takes people off of the focus.
Right.
And when it comes to our issues, we need to be laser focused because we have a lot of things we need to work through, and we need to concentrate, focus, and rally our energies around that. There are groups that are geared towards different subtopics and sub-interests. If you feel that passionately, join those. If you cannot stay on topic or within the scope of whatever that group or post or comment is, please, if you have good intentions, leave it be.
Facts.
I'm off my soapbox. I'm good.
Let's get it. Let's get it. That's very well said. Right on time as we transition into this story that we're going to be talking about today. It's kind of an epic saga. It's the Diddy trial and the fallout thereafter. And there's a lot going on out here in these internet streets, and in the real streets, it's so much. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it out here, y'all. So just a brief overview of the trial. This is basically what it looks like. Sean Diddy Combs was found not guilty of racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking charges in a federal trial, but was convicted on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. The jury's verdict is a mixed outcome as the most serious charges were dismissed, but he still faces sentencing for the lighter offenses. All right, we all know that. You would think that people would just kind of know how to act, right? You would think, but that just isn't how it goes, and Combs will be sentenced at a later date. His bail was denied pending sentencing, which is very interesting. Numerous civil lawsuits alleging sexual misconduct and so forth are still pending, some of which may be impacted by the evidence that was presented in the criminal trial. So we'll see how that all pans out, So at the end of the day, what this is telling us is it's not telling us much. It's telling us a whole lot of nothing. We do know that, like it says, the more serious charges he was acquitted of. So at the end of the day, the charges that he was acquitted of which dial back to the Mann Act, those charges carry a maximum sentence of 10 years. So he's not, the way that people are reading this, he's not going to be looking at any serious time, if he's looking at serious time at all. However, he is still sort of kind of guilty. So people are just kind of hanging in limbo to see, you know, what's up and which way they're going to go as far as the sentencing is concerned. Nobody really knows. It's kind of hard, you know, to gauge it in a way, you know what I'm saying? Because everybody's just kind of all over the place on this. So we'll see where that goes. And then, like I said, I found very interesting about that was this, you know, that his bail was denied due to propensity for violence. That one threw me off. I didn't really get that, but I kind of do. You know, I don't know. A lot of people are online really upset about that and, you know, kind of saying that, okay, that's not standard procedure for someone, you know, in this type of situation. If they were acquitted of the more serious charges, they were kind of expecting him to be allowed bail. Remember, initially he wasn't allowed bail, you know, but that reasoning that they're using behind why they're denying him bail is a little peculiar for me. Do we care about it? How do y'all feel about those things? What's the gauge of how are you gauging that? How are you feeling about those?
Yeah, at the end of the day, Puffy has a track record of being a piece of shit. He was
okay.
He was somebody that, like I told you, the game goofy nigga that never got women and this and that. He got his talent up. He learned from one of the best, Teddy Riley. Was carrying his piano and things like that, getting the game, soaking it up. Very great thing to do. I always say, you know, leverage your stuff around people with resources to level up. He got to the level where he got the power and the fame, and he let a lot of that get to his head. A lot of people that have a lot of access to power, it gets to their head to the point where they end up being very reckless, violent, and it distorts their whole character. With Diddy, you know, even though all of that is true, piece of shit, you know, nobody appreciates any man hitting on a woman, you know what I'm saying? Only if it's a defense, if you're defending yourself, that's a whole different story. But for you to go out there and knock a woman down because she might have took your money or jewelry, that's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna ride with that. But at the end of the day, we have to understand we're under a system of white supremacy. And under that system, you don't want to co-sign shit because you hate somebody. Because that will be very detrimental, because now you isolate a blueprint for other people to get captured up into that trap. The Mann Act, that was placed out there for Jack Johnson, if you know the history behind that. And that Mann Act, because it was solidified by people because they had a racial hate for a black man that was whipping on white guys during the Jim Crow, and let's be real, fucking they bitches. They don't like that. White men are very salty about that. And you know, we're known to have bigger pipe. So everything is just an emotional wreck and turned down. So the only way they can do that is create laws to try to even out the playing field. And when they did that Mann Act, so many others have got caught up onto that act as well. You could Google it and see some of your powerful black male hitters got caught up onto that. There were some white people that got caught up onto that, but they got the slap on the wrist because I'm white. I say so. When you look at that stuff, man, make sure that you guys are looking at it for the law in itself and not because you hate somebody, because that's going to be a deadly recipe when you co-sign based on hate. And I agree. I'll land my plane on that.
I was telling my mom that same thing. My mom was like, oh, boil him in oil. Oh, Lord. I don't like him either, but you gotta be fair. And the long and short of it is, the shit they charged him for was some bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't prove any of that. Go ahead, Bobby. What you got?
I just want to say first and foremost, F Diddy. I very much was on the Suge Knight bandwagon. If you tired of being over there with the other camp, got little ragtag little ninjas dancing, Harlem shaking all up in your videos, bad boys, and wearing the minks and chewing the straws. But
yeah.
Come to Death Row. I definitely went ahead and I passed my ballot for Death Row. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks.
So there's no love lost between me and Sean Combs. However, as mature, rational, reasonable adults, we have to understand that it's not about our feelings. To hell with those. We can have those.
Yeah.
We're entitled to our feelings. We're also entitled to our opinions, but we are not entitled to our facts.
Right.
And at the end of the day, especially where matters of the law and the legal system are concerned, facts have to have the say at the end of the day.
Yes, sir.
So despite my disdain for him, despite me believing that he's supposed to be in prison for quite some time, he's not supposed to be in prison for the things that they went and put him up on. And that matters also.
That's the point.
You have to watch out for these Pyrrhic victories where you get a win at all costs, but very often you end up destroying things that are innocent, racking up hella collateral damage, and even destroying yourself in the process. Because basically the same thing as revenge.
Yeah.
And you know what they always tell you about revenge? When you're out seeking revenge, make sure you dig two or however many multiple graves you need to not just bury the people that you're going after, but one for yourself as well too.
Right.
So you have to be mindful and surgical about that. Just to kind of touch on what you said a little bit, and the Mann Act actually wasn't created for Jack Johnson, but it was still in a similar vein. What happened was back in the early 1900s, and again, we're talking about why emotionalism is so dangerous when it comes to the law and everything. The Mann Act itself is a racist piece of legislation. The whole genesis of it was at that time, there was a lot of moral panic and sensationalized fears about so-called white slavery, the belief that your good old-fashioned, wholesome, virtuous, pure as the freshly white-driven snow white girls were being forced and coerced into prostitution by foreign-born men. In other words, us, and also some of the Asians that they had over here working on the railroads.
Yeah.
And so they just couldn't believe that good old-fashioned white women would possibly want to sleep with anything other than white men. So therefore, they must be prostitutes. Therefore, we need to come up with laws to go ahead and prosecute these non-white people for this. Unfortunately, the biggest case and the one that really set the stage for it was, in fact, Jack Johnson's situation, where basically all he was guilty of was transporting his girlfriend across state lines. So they tried to make it out like he was basically doing what Diddy was doing, fluing out white broads from all over the country for tricking. Nah, he basically had a white girlfriend at the time. When he went to and from different states for his fights, she was accompanying him on there. And I'm sure they did what couples typically do, but they want to call that prostitution. But again, when you have racialized legislation and racialized application, that's how you get skewed history. And when you go ahead and enable and empower things like a Diddy witch hunt in this case to go ahead and go forth, you make it so that other black people down the line will be subject to getting railroaded by the same legislation. 100 years ago, no one knew who a Diddy was.
Yeah.
But because of that act being put forth and even the precedent using against regular relationships with Jack Johnson, that set the stage for your man Diddy to get hit with that. R. Kelly also had that introduced during his trial as well too.
Yeah.
And there's been some other people, they try to get Chuck Berry with it. So this legislation has popped up in the cases of numerous famous black celebrities and stars because it's best known for being a piece of racialized weaponry, even though, of course, it did apply to other people. So you have to be mindful and get the fact of what's going on. You can't just simply say, I don't like this person, so whatever puts him away is fine by me.
Yeah. Very well
because
said.
the very, very signature that you place on his death certificate can also be forged and applied to your own or someone else that you care for. And all of a sudden it's, wait, no, I never co-signed that. Actually, if you take a look right here, you went ahead and gave the green light.
Yeah.
So I don't know why you thought you'd be immune to it. So bear in mind, and they like to do these things on purpose to drum up these worst case scenarios again. So that way it'll catch everybody else that falls under the umbrella of it. So again, be very mindful of this. Keep this in mind. If you happen to be subpoenaed for jury duty or any other situation where you're forced to make judgments, make sure that you are not succumbing to your own personal biases and emotions, but you're looking at just the facts. And even the jury members, because some of them were getting some hate mail and some negative responses from the public for not putting away for everything. And even when the jurors had to respond and say, hey, look, never mind all that bullshit y'all talking. They gave us the law to look at. They gave us the scope of the case. And based on what they provided, based on the constructs that we were given, it didn't fit the bill.
Beautifully said. Okay. That's it in a nutshell right there. You cooked on that. So this is what we had to keep in mind, folks. Let's keep our emotions in check. You know what I'm saying? So well said. Let's go on. Let's move on here. We got a lot to cover tonight. The next thing I want to talk about is this. This really, really just kind of drove me up the wall. I want y'all to just look at this and see if you can see what pissed me off. So you got, goodness, I hate it when it does that. Every now and again, the thing will tell you that it's not going to bring up the things you're trying to bring up. There you go. Funk Flex doesn't think Cassie is a victim after the Diddy verdict. Diddy made bad choices and you made bad choices. You can't see the rest of it. It's cut off. But basically, that's what Funk Flex said, right? And, you know, you can feel how you want to feel, but I just noticed it was just real interesting, you know. And then Ray J believes Diddy should have been cleared of all charges. Ray J coming out here being courageous. He's saying everything that he got to say with his chest. He ain't playing around, man. Boy, let me tell you something. Oh, and then Tiny said she celebrated the Diddy verdict with a close friend of the late Kim Porter, talking about how people want to charge you so bad for being freaky. I don't know why it's not showing the whole posters here, but the pattern that I see here and what really irks me about this stuff is Diddy was arrested months ago. Diddy was arrested, what was it, November? You understand what I'm saying? Diddy was arrested a long time ago, and the trial's been going on. Nobody had nothing to say. He was arrested, then they had trial and more trial. Nobody had nothing to say. After he was acquitted of the serious charges, and my interpretation is when the white people told you it was okay to speak, when the white people told you it was okay to think and have an opinion, now you want to speak out. That's the problem I have with it. I don't, one way or the other, if you feel like Diddy is guilty, you're right. If you feel like Diddy is innocent, you're right. I don't care one way or the other because there's a lot of gray, you know, but for these particular things, I do agree that he is innocent of those charges. But I'm saying just more broadly speaking, you know, my point is, why do we always have to wait until white people give us permission to have an opinion to talk about what we think and what we know and how we feel and who we support and so forth and so on? The same thing happened with R. Kelly. R. Kelly had been doing what he did since the 90s. Negroes forgot about that shit. We were going to R. Kelly concerts. You got women out. Didn't some women bail him out? You understand what I'm saying? Women bailed him out. Women put money on his commissary. To this day, women are still out there, you know, doing stuff for R. Kelly and caping for R. Kelly, raising money for R. Kelly, so forth and so on. We knew what R. Kelly did then. The community should have punished R. Kelly. He shouldn't have even had gotten a chance to get to trial if we keeping it a buck.
Preach, boy.
But people out here want to sell people get out here want to sell their children's ass. You understand what I'm saying? So they can get money and then claim victimhood later. And I think that that's a lot of the problem with, you know, what some of these people have with Cassie. Because as long as she was, you know, front and center, stunting at the Met Gala, it was cool. When you ran out of money and you wasn't the it chick no more, oh, it was abuse. I think a lot of people call bullshit on this case because of that. And but this particular thing just grinds my gears, drove me up the wall. I don't understand why black folks feel like they need permission from white people to think and have opinions and to express them. all of a sudden everybody got an opinion. All of a sudden everybody want to speak up. During the trial, before the trial, look, 50 Cent was vocal, Boosie was vocal. Who else was vocal? 50 Cent and Boosie is really all I heard from on a consistent basis. You understand what I'm saying? Now, all of a sudden, everybody got an opinion. Y'all need to shut the fuck up. That's how I feel. You know what I'm saying? If you couldn't speak then, why you speaking now? Now that Massa done told you you can have an opinion. I'll park the Chevy right there. What y'all say? Talk to me. Am I tripping?
No, I don't think you're tripping, but I think when it comes down to looking at who is saying it, who's saying something when the green light goes, all of the people that you listed on there are ran by and funded by white money. Remember,
everybody is.
No.
Just about who isn't?
Tariq isn't funded by
yeah, but Tariq, no, the mainstream media don't talk about Tariq. I'm talking about
that's what I'm saying.
People.
Like, but at the end of the day, you can't give people passes. You got to have warriors and people that are out there to kiss ass to get the Sambos that generate money from the white society. And when you look at, even if you dial down deep, you talk about Tiny. Of course, she's gonna say something, because remember, Tiny not too long ago got caught up in something similar with T.I.
Yeah.
Forget that?
No, I didn't forget.
Okay, so you got to look at some of the people and see why they saying that. Ray J could easily get caught up in that as well. All that shit he be doing, and that whole Zeus Entertainment. Yeah, it sounds like, he's doing his own thing, but at the end of the day, on the back end, he's still being controlled by white platforms. They still run his shit, and it's no different than a rapper or a group going out there to go get a Bad Boy or a Death Row Records. You're getting an imprinted deal from a major label ran by a white organization. So these people they look at it, they tippy-toe when it comes to talking about certain things, because they don't want to get affected by their money. The small cap people have really aligned themselves up where if you talk about them, they can financially destroy you. So it's the whole thing of victim shaming. You get blasted for it, whether it's on a low level or high level. You get blasted for saying things that can be factually true, but they'll regulate when they want you to talk about it, when it's okay to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? So
I hear you.
My whole thing is that you got to understand who are the people that are saying things. Funk Flex is ran off of a white platform. Ray J, a white platform, and what's her name? Tiny's ran off a white platform. She still got to go out there and do tours with SWV inside white arenas. So they got to tread lightly. And I'll just land my plane on that.
I hear you, and my thing is this: throughout the entirety of entertainment, these institutions have been white owned. But you always, before, like you said, you got to hold people accountable. Before, we used to have people that spoke up. You understand what I'm saying? Now, these niggas is so trained, they don't want to say nothing. Back in the days, we had the Kareem Abdul-Jabbars, we had the Harry Belafontes, we had the Muhammad Alis. They were still regulated by white-owned corporations and institutions.
Yeah, but dog, come on.
You don't have
to. Come on.
No,
stop,
I'm being dead ass.
Stop.
Listen.
Stop. You're comparing. Look who you're comparing to the people you talking about.
This is my point, though. We don't have nobody like that. No, that's my point.
But that's what I'm saying. So
you're
getting your grinds geared on people that's out here that ain't even running for the people in the first place. So you can't compare apples to oranges. You're comparing about the mindset. Remember, the mindset has changed after the 70s. These people were before the 70s. Now you got these people out here that's our puppets. So of course they're gonna. If you're not talking about the Tariqs, the lower level brothers that are out here making powerful moves in the grassroots, then it don't even make sense addressing the people or letting them people grind your gears. They're still puppets. They're still going to get their money, and they have their hands mixed in with some fuckery too.
Well, this is what I'm saying, and you know what I'm saying? We accept that shit. That's the problem.
Who accept it?
Black folks, black society. Back in those days,
majority coonish.
But this is what I'm saying. Back in those days, they couldn't act like, if they wanted to act fucked up, they couldn't, because black society would call them out and check them. We don't do that now. We still support these people when they get out there and buck dance. That's a problem.
The mindset is gone. You okay, like I told you guys before on this platform, if there was another Montgomery bus boycott, this shit would not happen.
Oh,
let's
granted.
Fucking real.
That's the problem.
Exactly.
We agree.
You're focusing on the majority that's already complicit to the bullshit.
No, we agree. Now, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying that is the problem, and that these type of niggas have become normalized. That is the problem, and we have to call those niggas out, and we have to hold them accountable.
Exactly. But the thing about it, why they're normalized, is because, like I said, we got to start getting on a level where we're doing our own shit. We need to start being on that level of accepting segregation. Start building our institutions and things like that, because if you don't, these people can't be punished. And we also won't be able to survive, especially with AI coming out here. We are waiting for the destruction to collapse instead of being unified and starting to bring back that mentality with the grassroots that is now popping, to start building that so we can get back where we used to be.
No, I agree 100%. And that's why I'm calling these niggas out. Go ahead, Bobby. What you got, man?
To be honest, I think that everything that you all saying, both of y'all are correct. There's a lot of overlap between the two of it. What's up, James? Shout out, brother. Yo, I just made it. Oh, running back right quick. What he had to say? Running back right quick. What he had to say?
Shout out to the homie James. He said,
just made it kind of climb at the last minute, but Cassie is diabolical and Puff didn't deserve it, really.
Okay. Okay. I hear you, dog. Yeah.
See, there you go. You have to understand that Hollyweird, and again, when I refer to Hollyweird, I'm not just talking about the studios and the back lots out in Hollywood, California, but I also refer to the music industry as well, because the music industry is an adjacent of Hollyweird. It's a lot of the same fingers and toes dipping in both ponds, especially even before you have the overlap of music artists being able to cross over and be actors, entertainers, and vice versa. It was very much like that.
Yeah.
So they're one of the same. You have to understand that Hollyweird is all about compromisation.
Thanks.
And their goal is always, how can we get people, doesn't matter if they're black, it's anybody. Black, Asian, white, Latino, Martian, Sasquatch, whatever. How can we compromise this person so that they're malleable like putty in our hands, and they'll basically dance when we tell them to dance?
Yeah.
The interesting thing is, you're right, Ant. You got a lot of people who, now that everything's settled, they're already come out and speaking, and primarily it's on behalf of Puff. But you also have to understand, look at it almost like an ocean. In an ocean, or really any environment, period, you will always have your producers, your little grass, the plants that are at the bottom of the food chain. Then you have herbivores that feast on those little things, and you have lesser predators that eat other creatures. They might eat some of the plants. They might eat some of the smaller animals. But as you go up, you're going to get bigger and bigger predators until you finally get your apex predators. Those are the mofos that nobody messes with. Only other apex predators are on the same level as that apex predator. Anybody below them, they don't see them. Everybody below them can get it. Everybody beneath them is like that Willem Dafoe meme where he's looking up like, trying to watch, make sure they don't get stepped on and don't get scooped up. Diddy, even though we don't necessarily think of him as that, Diddy is and has always been a huge, heavy influencer in music, period.
Yeah.
We basically owe probably about a strong 50% just about of the music scene and everything of the 90s and the 2000s to Diddy and Bad Boy.
Yeah.
So many gems, so many classics, so many artists came out of that camp and worked with and collaborated with that industry and that label, that you can't really go anywhere in urban music without, to some extent, paying homage, tipping your hat to Diddy.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, even if they're not under his label, even if they're not under his parent company's label, a lot of people, Diddy has to just make a few phone calls and he can make stuff really, really soggy and sour for them. So they have no choice but to be quiet and just sit back like everyone else and wait to see which way the cookie's going to crumble. If he got locked up and put away, Wouldn't be a whole ton, but you would definitely have some people coming out and saying, yeah, man, I never liked that Diddy, man. He's a foul dude, this, that, and third. But now that he's pretty much going to be out, now it's, oh, man, you know, I knew that was BS, man. You know, they shouldn't have done Puff like that. Why do you want to do that to Puff? So
licking ass,
looking to see which way the winds of change are going because they don't have power themselves. Now, you also need to show recognition where it's due. They might not necessarily be that, but you do have some brothers who are principled, whether you like their principles or not, who are going to say whatever they want to say. And you mentioned two of them. We all know 50 don't give a damn. He's made a career just about. He's probably about as famous for not giving a damn and speaking his mind and going at people, even the ones that aren't safe, as he is for making music. And you got Boosie. It don't matter if you like his views or not, if you think that he's problematic or controversial.
Yeah.
Terrence Hatcher is going to open his mouth and say whatever he's thinking, good, bad, in between. And he's also made it clear that if he feels like he's stepped out of boundaries, he has no problem with apologizing and taking that back either. But he's going to say what he thinks.
Facts.
So you do have principled people out there that are moved by that. And if they take an L or not, they're unmoved by it because it's going to be what it is, plain and simple. So we do have people like that are out there, and they deserve their flowers and their props. And we need those types because those are the ones, if anyone, that we need to give our ear time to, as opposed to the Tinys and the Ray J's who don't have anything popping and can't make anything shake on their own. And to be honest, a lot of them have skeletons that are in the closet as well too. So I'm pretty sure they know damn well that Diddy knows where those bodies are buried. If he has to go and tug some strings, he knows what's going to fall the cabinet in the shake. But it's important that we are cultivating people who are principled for this very reason.
Facts.
We need to make sure that we are putting out people that we're raising our children to be virtuous men and women, principled people who aren't swayed by money and influence and power and fame, but the influence are based on what is right and what is wrong. And it don't matter who hate it, who like it, raising our children to stand in the gap. If you got to go hungry, if you got to starve a little bit, if your belly button got to touch your your spinal cord for a little bit because you're missing meals, that's fine. I would rather feel the pains of being hungry because I spoke the truth and stood for what's real than I would feel having a bellyache from eating too big because I bend over and just do whatever they tell me to do, and they pay me really good for it. We need to make sure that we're retraining our own brains so we're wired that way, so we can teach our children to not be swayed like that. Because to be honest, that's how you get a Cassie Ventura in the first place, who's willing to sell her soul, sell herself, put herself in these predicaments, be exposed to things that she was exposed to, all for a buck.
Facts.
So you see, it's a vicious circle. It all comes full circle. Not having principle will put you in those kind of compromising situations, and being put in those compromising situations will ultimately force you to be in a consistent space where you need to always be giving it your butt cheeks. Your cheeks never get rest. No, Diddy.
Facts.
No, actually, no. Yes, Diddy. We're talking about
it. Facts. And see, that's really what I'm saying at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? I get that, you know, these people are broadly speaking sellouts. It wasn't just them. Those are just a couple examples I used. But it's a whole bunch of people that started talking after the white people said they could. And we got to stop being like that. We got to have some integrity, some principles. We got to start standing for something. There's no reason that Tiny or Ray J or any of those people can't be Kareem or Muhammad or whatever the case may be. They're simply making a choice not to be. That's my issue with these sellout niggas. So that being said, you know, we got some other stuff to cover here. I want to get to this. This is big. You know what I'm saying? Because, oh boy, listen. What happened with the Diddy, like I said, the fallout from the Diddy trial, because all type of other shit start popping up. You know what I'm saying? You got this.
Diddy Combs' son Justin has been accused of orchestrating an alleged gang rape. Amid Diddy's federal sex trafficking trial, the 31-year-old and his dad are facing a civil lawsuit from a woman who alleges she was drugged and sexually assaulted by 3 masked men during a 2017 trip to Los Angeles arranged by Justin, according to court documents obtained by E! News on June 26th. In the complaint, the woman alleges that Justin, who she said she met through Snapchat, flew her out from New Orleans under the guise that he would get her a position with remote TV in Atlanta through his and his father's connections. Upon her arrival, the woman says she spent time at a Beverly Hills home consuming alcohol and marijuana, which she believed was laced due to the effect it had on her. Following the alleged intoxication, the lawsuit states that 3 masked men arrived and took turns raping plaintiff both anally and orally while she was drugged and incapacitated from Saturday evening until midday Sunday. She is suing the father and son duo as well as Diddy's businesses for sexual battery, gender violence, and negligent supervision.
So there's that. You know, I didn't even know there was such a charge as gender violence.
That's a brand new charge. I'm not saying it's legitimate or not. I'm just saying this is the first time I'm hearing about it. That's it.
What? I mean, boy, they just pulling out the all the stops. They making up new shit.
I'm wondering if that's a state or federal charge, because if that's federal, that's interesting because that's the whole nation. That's state, that's interesting. But
I'm just saying, gender violence. Hold on, I'm not done. Not to be upstaged.
But wait, there's more.
Not to be upstaged.
Has been hit with an explosive $20 million lawsuit for allegedly coercing his ex-hype man into thousands of sexual acts. In a graphic 157-page lawsuit, Terrence T.A. Dixon accuses Fat Joe, whose legal name is Joseph Cartagena, of more than a decade of abuse. The details so disturbing that there's a big trigger warning in the red on the first page of that filing. Dixon alleges that in the lawsuit, Cartagena forced him to, quote, humiliating situations, including sex acts, performed under duress and surveillance. Dixon claims he personally witnessed Cartagena engage in sexual relations with girls as young as 15, one of whom Cartagena was allegedly in love with and contemplated leaving his wife for. An attorney for Cartagena says the lawsuit is a blatant act of retaliation.
The complaint does accuse Cartagena of underpaying him, but it goes on with many more allegations, claiming Cartagena would bring women to hotel rooms and make Dixon have sex with them in front of him and others. It also alleges that Cartagena would fly underage girls into the U.S. from Europe and that he paid for plastic surgery for one of them, and claimed that the minors were frequently cut off financially and discarded when they became non-compliant.
Whew! Boy, look here. I mean, it's almost like they're trying to outdo each other. You know what I'm saying? Like the sex scandals is like, okay, yeah, you raped the chick, you know, but I had sex with an underage chick. I got you. It's like they're trying to one up each other. These people are sick. Well, allegedly, because none of this has been proven yet. But my thing is this, man. You know, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? And I understand there are two schools of thought. I just want to share this one other post real quick because this is also a thing, just in case people forgot, this was last year, but Diddy's other son, King Combs, was also accused of sexual assault in a lawsuit. So you got this man and all of his sons that have been accused of some type of sexual lawsuit at this point. And it's like, bruh, what is really going on? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm flabbergasted. And there's one train of thought that says, okay, is this the new hustle? You know, I hook up with some celebrity and then I say, oh, he raped me. And then I get a few mil. Is that the new hustle? Or are all these people really getting exposed? And, you know, always the question of timing always comes up. Okay, if this happened X amount of years ago, why are you coming forth with it now? Are they just feeling like, okay, well, he's vulnerable, he's weak now, so I got a better shot, people will believe me? Or is this just a straight up finesse? And that's where it gets tricky, because it can be either. So I really hope that if these things did happen, that these people are punished to the fullest extent of the law. There's nothing in this world that I hate more than a rapist or a pedophile. Facts. Like, if I know about you, I might get you myself. Like, it's nothing I hate more than those type of people. But at the same time, someone who would make up something like that just so that they can have monetary gain. Those type of people exist out there too. You're dealing with two different type of scumbags, and we don't know who's telling the truth and who's not. And so that's what really, really bothers me here. Lastly, I want to say before I let y'all cook on this, I have a problem with some of these people, particularly the men. You know, I know that might sound a bit sexist or whatever the case may be, but I have a hard time believing Fat Joe's hype man, for instance, for years, that Fat Joe made him perform these sexual acts in front of him and, you know, made him commit all these assaults and do all these debaucherous things. I have a problem believing that. That's bullshit. To me, it's bullshit when it comes from women too. You know, unless somebody physically held you down and made you, they didn't make you. You understand what I'm saying? Cassie was with Diddy for 11 years and he made you do all that stuff that I saw you on the text messages saying, I can't wait to freak off. And he made you do it. Fuck out of here. So I got a problem with all that, but especially from a man. You know, you're filing a lawsuit now, and I despise Fat Joe. This goes back to Anthony's point from earlier. Just because you hate somebody don't mean, you know, that, okay, we're not going to be fair to them. It got to make sense. Maybe Fat Joe with these kids, Fat Joe got lyrics when he talk about messing with underage girls. Let's keep it a buck. You understand? He got lyrics. I posted one of them last week. You understand? He got lyrics where he talks about this. So yeah, that might be something that went down. Allegedly, you know, I can believe that. You know what I'm saying? But the stuff with he made this guy screw all these women in front of him, man, you full of shit, bro. That part of the lawsuit is full of shit. Maybe the other shit is real, but that part of it, come on, bro. I'm just saying, I'll park the Chevy on that. Make it make sense. Come on now.
Yeah, two things could be true. You know, indulging in acts like that, and also being a finesse. You know, you have to see where the facts come out on either side, because there are people out there that are trying to get the finesse part of it, and there are people out there that are real victims.
Facts.
So it's very important that we get to the facts, push everything out and get to the facts and make the decision based on facts. I notice a lot of people, men and women, get because they have trauma, you know, and they have deep-rooted trauma that they kind of affiliated with the topic in some form or fashion. It resonates with them. And a lot of people are very biased towards that. I remember I was on Clubhouse one day and they were talking about me being a stepfather, and they were I was giving them some great advice, you know, and they was like, yo, man, you're pretty dope for a dude that don't have no children. You know, I like how you spearhead the house and, you know, you put these children under your wings and get them in the right direction.
Yeah.
And one person, a guy asked me, did you discipline the child physically? And I said, yeah, you know, my oldest stepson at the time was being very defiant. And I talked about how it was Christmas time, and what he was doing was tearing up a little bit of the Christmas presents to see what was in it, and then going back and telling the children. Yeah. So he was warned about that, and I caught him under the tree. I got the belt and I grazed him. It wasn't nothing bodily, which is across his back.
Yeah.
And he was very, very heated about that. And he was like, yo, I'm going to tell my daddy and this and that. And I said, go ahead. Matter of fact, I'll give you the phone, call your daddy. But one thing that I talk about all the time is, as men, we have to put our pride to the side and speak to the other parent.
Yeah.
And the father already gave me permission. He gave me permission, he gave his mom permission. He said, let me tell you something. I rocks with Ant, and he's on the same level I'm on. If I was in that house, I would have disciplined him the same way as well, or worse, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I already established a relationship with the father. So I talk about that, and I definitely have some chapters about that I'm writing in the book. about how that's how you cut off children from going back playing parent sides. You know what I'm saying? When all the parents are on the same level, you cut that shit off. So when one woman in the chat, she got triggered. Oh, she was like, oh, there's no way I could allow you. And the guys in the chat was like, ma'am, he already got permission from the father and the mother. So what are you talking about? Why are you, So then you notice that she was based on her trigger and what she went through. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's very dangerous when you are out here projecting yourself from triggers, because you just never know how your triggers will influence somebody to think in a negative way like you, versus looking at the bigger, broader picture and say, oh, okay, this is an isolated incident. He went through all the check marks and got everything. That's what you're supposed to do when you're out here raising children. Ever since that time that I popped my stepson straight A's, I had these children on different grade levels. They were taking high school classes in middle school and taking college classes in high school. So I set that up for them like that. And that's the thing, even though they have a father, a lot of times people don't know information. I'm not going to hide the information when these children could propel, even though they're not biologically mine, they're still under my roof. They still are part of society. I still want to see them be successful in life. So, when you look at it from all over, it's just, you got to make sure that you're not projecting your stuff out there. I just looked at the Violence Act. Guess who that was created by? Joe Biden. In the 1990s, Senator Joe Biden submitted a preliminary proposal for the legislation. In 1994 was the act, the VAWA was created in 1994 as the first comprehensive federal legislation to address violence against women. It was spearheaded by then Senator Joe Biden and signed into law by President Bill Clinton. So you already know the true history behind those guys and how they cripple society. So these laws, even though they look like they were out there protecting victims, they were really more geared and subjugated to Black people to target them versus targeting everybody who it falls under. And I'll land my plane on that.
Facts on facts. Bobby Drake, what you got, man? Talk to me.
Hearing those two authors, I'm pretty familiar with some of their other joint work together. So I'm gonna have great interest in researching this Violence Against Women Act and seeing just how this legislation has been applied over the years. I think the results are probably going to be quite interesting, but that'll be for another day. As far as this goes, it's interesting. I remember, I can't remember what the exact context was, but I remember somehow there was a conversation. I don't know if it was live and I was a part of it, or if I overheard it, or if I saw it elsewhere, but it was presented when talking about the law and how it works and who it protects and who it doesn't protect. I remember the illustration was basically given. A robber can't go, or I'll use dope terminology. Right now, we understand that theft is a crime. Burglary is a crime. Robbing, the act of taking that which does not belong to you, especially if it has a dollar amount, it's not an actual it's a crime. It's not legal. You can't do it. Big ups to the big boss, Mr. Terrence Fulton. Blessings, fam.
Yo.
Robbery is theft. If someone runs up in Major's house right now, they're saying, hey man, that's a nice keyboard back there. I like that Transformers loot you got. I'm gonna go ahead and take them off your hands right quick. Major can go ahead and call the police, file a request. They're going to be looking for Mr. Burglar. They're going to want to have a word with him. And he's probably going to get some silver bracelets for his services. If Ed is on the street minding his own business, someone comes up and snatches his watch, that's a crime. That is theft. Ed can go ahead and call the police and go ahead and file charge and say, hey, someone stole my watch. that's the guy over there. Need to arrest him. They're gonna go ahead and arrest him. He's gonna get a pair of nice, shiny handcuffs for his troubles.
Yeah.
If Bobby Drake is a dope boy, I'm out here trying to make Franklin, Ghost, and BMF look like chump change. I'm out here a drug lord kingpin.
Mm-hmm.
And some goop comes up and jacks a kilo from the back of my car.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Drake, the snowman, cannot go and call Miami-Dade police to say, hey, I'd like to report a crime. Yeah, I'm a dope boy on such and such area.
Yeah.
Some rival just went ahead and back of my car, stole my kilos. I can't make my sales today. I need y'all to go arrest them.
Right.
What's going to happen is, first and foremost, the whole police station is going to fall out laughing. If anyone has survived the belly laugh attack I just launched on them, they're going to go ahead and send all the squad cars to my location.
Yeah.
And they're all going to have a fun time putting me in handcuffs and the person who robbed me in handcuffs and laughing about how they just made this huge bust this night because this idiot went ahead and called in. In other words, if you are committing a crime, you do not have the right to go ahead and call in and get the law involved to go ahead and mediate your issue with another criminal.
Okay.
So it's amazing to me that you have someone such as Cassie who can be an active participant in criminality and can still go ahead and get a whole, not even a local, but can get a whole federal investigation going on someone who basically should be her co-defendant.
Facts.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that shit. Wow.
She went out here tricking. She paying hoes. She paying male and female hoes. She out here got all kind of stuff going down. And she can still be out there guilty as sin, but she can go ahead and pick up the phone and say, I want to report a crime.
Yeah. That's where we are.
What kind of bizarro land situation is this? And interestingly enough, hopefully she's not, but she might not be off the hook herself, because there is someone who was introduced into the crime, into the this case, who was a male prostitute, and basically said that he was pretty much drafted by Cassie, and said that he's trying to go ahead and sue her because she inflicted both physical and emotional trauma against him. And unlike Cassie, however, he's been catching flack for trying to hold her accountable for her role and her basically doing to him what she claims that Diddy did to her.
Facts.
So
see, when it's a woman,
again,
nobody got nothing to say.
She can be out here doing all kinds of evil, and there's a lot of women who are heavily involved in the sex trafficking world as well. There's a lot of women out here that are being used because no one takes women seriously or look at them as threats. They're being used to go ahead and lure minors, small boys, small girls. They're being used to go ahead and bring others into this criminality or to set them up. Or in some cases, they're running the very criminal enterprise themselves, but they get to escape charges or they get slaps on the wrist because they're women.
Right.
So we need to really, again, if we're serious about that, and that's one of the reasons why it's so difficult to prosecute this in the first place, because there is so much corruption just in the whole bringing of these charges in the forefront to begin with. We have all kinds of double standards. Men get the full brunt of the law placed against them. Women get a pass, they get the skirt. We have people who could openly be telling lies and be, openly be called out as liars. They're not telling the truth. They're trying to get a money bag or something going on, but they're not prosecuted. The accused can have their whole life ruined. They can even be killed themselves because of those false allegations, but nothing happens. So there's a lot of muddy water because we refuse to go ahead and properly pin down some actual standards in this. And it's horrible because I know people who have been the victim of sexual assault.
Yeah,
I have personal friends and loved ones who have gone through that, and it burns me up inside that they went through what they went through. Some of them have received justice, most of them have not. And as a person who has not been a victim, I can't for my life understand how someone can go ahead and take something like this and pervert that for their own selfish ends. But what makes me even crazier is that no one wants to hold people like that accountable.
Thanks.
How can you, as a victim of sexual assault, see somebody lying, using what you went through for their own selfish things. You haven't gotten justice yet.
Mm-hmm.
And this person's out here getting big bang paydays. They're out here getting this person tossed away for revenge to make themselves feel better. And meanwhile, you've been the victim and you haven't even gotten justice yet. I can't understand how people who are victims themselves do not come out and try to hold these people accountable for making a mockery of what they went through. There's a lot of dust in here. And unfortunately, until we can get some things actually pinned down and really have honest, open conversations about this without emotions getting involved, I don't think we're going to see daylight with this issue. It's going to continually be a nuclear football, and the result is always going to depend on which team has the better quarterback, which team has the better defense. That's what it's going to come down to. It's not going to be about actual justice.
Well said. I mean, and we're seeing that right now. You know, people are really playing with this. You know, they're really, really playing with it. They're not taking it very seriously. You remember the girl, one of the girls who came forward and tried to accuse Jay-Z. Now, you know, I have my problems with Jay-Z, but you know, her story was janky as hell. It didn't make no damn sense. She got laughed out of the damn courtroom. You understand? These type of people, these scumbags, these lowlifes, they're worse than the people who are actually, or just as bad. I can't say worse, but they're just as bad as the people who are actually committing these crimes. You don't play around with something like that.
They're also predators.
Yeah, they're also predators. That is a very predatory way of thinking. Facts. You know, and nobody's calling them out. And you know, this right here, it's a thing, man. And what I'm seeing is that, you know, again, you're talking about how we as a people, we're just not very serious, man. Like it don't get no more complicated than that. We are not particularly serious because we continue to allow people to play on our emotions. You know, you got people out here that get in these comment sections and act like they're attacking them when they weren't believed, when they were sexually assaulted. This ain't got shit to do with you. You don't know if this person is telling the truth any more than the person who is assuming that they're lying or telling the truth. You don't know from anybody else. And people need to, like you say, focus on the facts, get out your feelings, and let's be adults here. And, you know, the women are very angry as per this clip.
Our Aubrey O'Day is in shock after today's stunning verdict in the Sean P. Diddy Combs trial. I spoke to her minutes after Combs was found not guilty on the most serious charges.
What was your reaction to hearing this verdict?
It's literally a gut punch. That is not good enough. Let me make it very clear, it's not good enough, okay? We're not normalizing this.
O'Day first met Diddy when he picked her to star in an all-female singing group after she competed on the MTV show Making the Band in the early 2000s.
You've been speaking out about Sean Diddy Combs, raising alarm bells for years.
A lot of good it did me.
So at the end of the day, when you have the white women saying, a lot of good it did me, you know, and they're coming out and they're angry. They're like, this is not enough. You got a problem on your hands. And I want to caution Diddy and anybody else out there who gets off or is perceived to have gotten off. You remember what happened with OJ? You know, he was found not guilty. He was acquitted of all charges. And they hounded that man until the day he died. They found some shit to arrest OJ for. So we have to be very, very mindful of that. And it also creates a precedent, you know, where, you know, let me just put this out there. Overwhelmingly, the majority of sexual predators and people who perpetrate sexual crimes are white men. However, we live in a system of white supremacy. And we have a very powerful white media, and they have successfully made the face of sexual assault black men over the past couple years. They're going out of their way to do this. The whole time this is going on, you have the former CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch, You have one of the executives from Nickelodeon, the Schneider gentleman. You have any number of white men out here with very similar charges, but they're not talking about them. They don't get documentaries. They don't even get a lot of coverage, if we're being totally honest. You understand what I'm saying? And so I want people to understand and stop, because I'm still hearing people, oh, it's us. We is our own worst enemy. And all they did, oh, Lord, the nigga, oh, Lord, niggas. When you give a nigga a little money, boy, bruh, the overwhelming majority of the people out here who are sexual predators are still white, and the overwhelming majority of black people with money are not behaving like this, or at least we're not being made aware of it, right? These sex parties, and so forth, they go on throughout Hollywood. This is not something that is only relegated to black people. And, it's just they have a bigger megaphone to make it look like it's us. So I want to issue this warning to all coons. Let's not act like this is the end of the world. And while I'm mentioning coons, I would be remiss if I didn't really you can't make this shit up, because people want to talk about this, people want to talk about that, but we don't really talk about the people who are behaving in the most despicable manner and give them the credit for being despicable. We actually give them a platform and we blow them up. I'm going to talk about this real quick, and I'm going to talk about it the way it needs to be talked about. This has to be talked about.
I heard allegedly it was 2 slip and falls in the free call. Look, slide at your risk. Slide at your own risk.
So I had to ask you, did you come with a bottle of Astroglide and baby oil, or did you pick them up afterwards, or how did that take shape?
It was actually gifted to me.
Okay.
It was a gift that keeps on giving. Okay. Never even seen this thing.
Okay.
It's the first thing. Right. But when I touched it, I seen the power that it had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have magical properties, magical properties, man. But you got to keep it separate from the baby oils. That's how you get caught up in a freak out. So just make sure you just do that. Whoa, when I heard the not guilty, I didn't know if I was hearing it right. I said, I made noise in the corner, the officers, the court officers is trying to tell us quiet, quiet, quiet. I think he needs to be now as an advocate against abuse and abuse of women and abuse of anybody. I think he needs to stand firmly in this and become a beacon in this. He needs to become an ambassador of this now. This is something that he personally needs to do.
I don't know what she gonna do, y'all.
So as painful as that was to watch, you understand what I'm saying? We gotta talk about this, because there are people out there sticking mics in these fools' faces from so-called legitimate news organizations, right? That was Newsweek. They're supposedly a legitimate news outfit. And, this first guy, his Samboing is just on another level. He starts off Samboing, and I guess he must have felt guilty because he knew how dumb he looked. And towards the end of his cooning, he starts trying to talk about how Diddy needs to get out here and, be an ambassador for women and protecting women and all this old shit that he don't mean. He just trying not to sound so stupid. And in the very next clip, you got him hurling baby oil at this hood rat that's out there twerking. And what are we doing? It was a plantation jubilee. All them niggas is plantation ready. You understand what I'm saying? It made my head explode. Go ahead, man. What y'all got? Because that took me out, bro.
Yeah, it goes back to what I was saying last week. I think I said it last week or the week before about what is your legacy? Are you out here building infrastructure, or do you just want to be caught up in the moment and be viral for the moment? I think it was a lady that talked about that. I had got a clip. I'm not sure if I sent it to you guys, but it was a lady that was saying, listen, I've been viral. I went viral. You know what I'm saying? It ain't nothing to go viral. The problem is you going viral is short-lived. So why not do something where you can consistently be great at and have a fan base following off of doing something of substance versus doing something outrageous? You live in a moment and then you die off. Nobody wants to hear about you or anything like that, because once it comes to fame, you get it in a short bottle. And what you choose to do with that bottle will either propel you or it will leave you back in the dust again. So you got to know how to pivot. And that's one thing, you know, when I talk to these young adults out here, is if you're trying to go viral, make sure you got all your X's crossed out. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you're putting yourself, so when you go viral, you can use that to propel you in another direction.
Right.
These people are buffoons. They don't have anything. He's over here with Diddy, oil and all that. Now, if he was out there, if he was smart, he could have out there had an intelligent conversation and had his own oil that he can compete with Johnson & Johnson.
Come on now.
The mindset doesn't allow them to think like that, to grab the moment of what it is. So now you just, instead of you propelling yourself into entrepreneurship, you're now going into the Hall of Fame of jackass and coonery. And that shit will never erase from you, because that highlighted moment is going to be remembered. And that's how people are going to remember you. No matter what the hell you did, you could have been feeding 1,000 homeless people in your community.
Yeah.
That one viral moment of you acting like a jackass is what's going to paint you and be the poster child of who you are and your character.
Yeah.
I want to make sure people understand this. You know, you got the young adults out here, even older adults. Y'all got to remember, yes, we were reckless during our time, because there's a lot of things that a lot of us have done that we could get held responsible for. The way that they are pivoting things out now, we could be held highly, highly accountable for that. The great thing is that we didn't have that type of film and everything like that recording our dumb behavior. But we grew up off of the same thing that they're getting accused of is the same thing that we used to brag about. Remember where your ride at? On the passenger side of your hoe trying to come up on another G. You're brought up onto me trying to smother me. Lovingly while I roll up another B. Suddenly, she learned that I don't deal with emotions, but when we in the room, she rubbing me with lotion, coming like an ocean coasting, have her sick thinking of me and do or die, dig, drinking love potion. The word no was never said. Twister be giving women digging the bed till they sick in their head. And if I ever leave whoever did, there ain't no tricking with the feds or spitting game, but it's chicken bread. Kicking the legs in the air like a player do, then belittle them in a day or two. Afterwards, I'm a slayer crew. Now there's some pimp shit type shit with Bello and AK do, wearing gray and blue. If your hoe wanna holler, then you a player if you hit them ends and get the dividends, but you a pimp if you get the same hoe to wanna freak your friends. Cause I study PIMP-ology. Now, that was a very powerful verse and song that we grew up on. And that right there, in this day and age, acting out what a lot of people used to do back then, being the pimps, running train on women, that shit can be your ultimate default and can throw you in jail right now for 20, 25 years.
Easy.
So what it is now is the mindset. Even if you have the capability to do it, don't do it. You got to start walking, talking different, and being that role model. Even though you don't want to be that, you have to be that for the next generation. Because let me tell you something, we have dropped the ball. The generation before us, they had carried it on to make sure that they sacrificed so we didn't have to live like them. And we're not doing that same sacrifice for the next generation. We're too much going on flights, traveling, partying, doing goofy shit, doing Sambo shit, selling each other out for money. And that's why we're regressing everything that our ancestors have gained. And we have more freedom and more capital right now, but our ancestors were able to build more shit during Jim Crow than we are building right now. Think about that shit, and I'll land my plane on that.
Facts. Go ahead, Bobby.
I want to spend as little time possible addressing that, because that was I want so bad to pour boiling hot water in my ears and in my eyes so I can just completely erase that. Not going to say the word language. Not going to go there. But I got nothing nice to say about that. But this goes back to what I said before, how when you have these Sambos, these are some of those three people, that Jigaboo and them two Jigabooettes, those are the ones that are the biggest obstacles to our progress as a people. Because again, like I said before, anytime you have people in the room having constructive conversation, game planning, analyzing information, coming up with ideas and solutions to problems, they see all those eyes, all those people, all that attention focus, and then they're saying, instead of saying, let me contribute to that, let me go ahead and put forth my own input, or if they don't have any, let me just sit out on the sidelines and let them do what they do. They say, ooh, it's an opportunity for attention. Let me go and get some too. And sure enough, perform and they do it press conference outside of the Diddy trial. They do it at a protest when George Floyd's being murdered. They do any and everywhere. There is no inappropriate time for them to hunt for attention. And that is a problem. We need to understand, and again, those people who they are, even says it in scripture, even says in the Bible, the poor you shall have with you always. So these type have always been around. They will always be around. They're not going anywhere. That's a done deal. There's no point in belaboring the point. What's the conversation that's worth having is, what do we, as those who are not from those ranks, how do we see that? What do we do about that?
Right.
And we need to understand when we see these types and what they're doing, we have to understand that it is not a victimless crime. It is not innocent. It's not, well, they're just doing this and you got to mind your own business. No. You have to start looking at them as the ops and moving accordingly.
Right.
Not give them the attention they're seeking, chase them out, castigate them, criticize them, make it plain and clear that you doing this, you on the outs. You can't be here with us. That's how you move it. So that's my response to that. The more important thing I want to touch on is where you were going, Ann, because I was looking for an opening. I was thinking it might come later on, but I want to touch on it a little bit right now. That verse and your analysis of it is very powerful, because we are, unfortunately, and again, this isn't for those who have nefarious purposes, your R. Kellys and even your Diddy's and such. This goes out to the brothers who are well-meaning otherwise, but they don't understand, they're unable to read the tea leaves. We are in an era where, as men, we are being targeted specifically on the grounds of being men. What do I mean by that? I'm not saying, because I know how this can be misconstrued, so let's get this out the way. I'm not saying that sexual assault is what men do.
Right.
Okay. I'm not saying violated consent is what men do. I'm not saying sleeping with multiple women is what men do. I'm simply saying that one of the areas of people activity that we all engage in,
sex,
is being used primarily as a weapon to come after us men, black men in particular. There are a lot of men, and again, we're just talking from an innocent standpoint. We're talking about people just looking to have fun and enjoy their lives. It is what it is. There are a lot of men who, when they strive to either make a professional league or become famous, a singer, entertainer, whatever, someone of note, someone of stature, someone of fame and power, in addition to the money, being able to take trips and have their name in the headlines, one of the things that they're looking forward to is having access to the women of their dreams. They're looking forward to acting out the little pornographic scenes they saw when they were younger. They're looking forward to living lavish. They see the same way how we see yachts and cars and clothes as status symbols. They're also looking and engaging all kind of freaky frog antics in the bedroom as well. I'm not an endorser of that, but it's what they're looking for.
Right.
And maybe in a perfect world, that would be fine and good. You're down for this. You have women who are consenting. They're willing to be part of this fantasy. They want maybe some money from you. You don't mind spending it in exchange for getting your fantasies met. Quid pro quo on the table. This is fine and dandy because it's adults consenting to these actions. The problem is we live in an unscrupulous world where we have people who, as we mentioned before, will look to prey on you because of that. They see your desires and your wants, and they're going to use that to come after you, to separate you from your resources, to destroy your life and your family if you cross them, what have you. So as a result, we need to be smarter.
Yep.
Evolutionarily speaking, it's not the strongest, and I've said this before too, it's not the strongest, it's not the fastest, it's not even the smartest who evolve and pass on their genes to the next generation, to the next generation, to the next generation. It is the one who's best able to adapt.
Right. Facts.
If you as a man cannot look in the times we're in and see how things are moving and realize, you know what, more than ever, I need to be sexually disciplined. I need to kind of corral my sensibilities.
Yeah.
If I got some taste, or if I have some kinks or whatever that are a little out there, I need to save that for my web browser.
Yeah.
My DVD collection.
Right.
And just get it as boring as possible. If you can't have the foresight to say that, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
You are easy prey. Sexual discipline is probably right now today. If you are an upwardly mobile man, special black man, your sexual discipline level is probably going to be the factor that most determines not only if you're able to get to the top and reach all the goals and heights that you want, but it's definitely the biggest factor whether you're going to be able to stay there.
Very well said. Yes, sir.
And we know that it's tough to get to the top, but it's even more difficult to stay there. If you can't control yourself and your wants, your urges, and your desires, and how you operate, you're food. And there's a whole lot of predators looking to go ahead and make a meal out your ass. Diddy is today. We're going to have a whole lot more down the line until y'all get it. Land my hovercraft.
Facts. Okay. You cooked on that. Listen, man, the brothers are telling y'all, man, if y'all don't know, it's a new day out here. I don't know how many, because I see guys just on an everyday local level doing this, still doing this, engaging in all this BS. You understand what I'm saying? So this is where we are. This is a thing. It's a new day. You got Shannon Sharp out here looking crazy. You got Diddy out here looking crazy. You got Diddy's sons, both of them out here looking crazy. You understand what I'm saying? You got Tyler Perry out here looking crazy. I could go on all day. Everybody got a damn sexual assault charge. And y'all niggas still out here. You got to learn some damn self-control. Go ahead.
No, I want to ask you guys, let's be real. You guys know battle rap, right?
Okay.
I want to show people how powerful this shit is, right? What is the most legendary battle rap you can think of? The most iconic battle rap?
Kendrick Lamar versus Drake.
No. I'm talking about URL battle rap.
Oh,
we're talking about no-name people.
I don't watch that.
Oh,
you don't watch that?
No.
Bobby,
I've seen, it's been a minute, the biggest one I could think of recent, I think that might be where you're going. Probably the biggest and the most controversial one was where I can't remember his name, but when he was going at Remy Ma's dude, Ease the Block Captain, was laying into him about pretty much this whole verse was about how he and Remy were being shady towards Pap.
Oh no, you talking about good. You talking about good. No, not him.
That was dope. But
that was dope. All right, so I wanted to get to this because I want to show the young adults and the men that need to change their mindset how powerful you could be, that you can make a name that rings bells off of speaking fucking knowledge. So, but you think he a god? Well, let me ask you this. Would you kill the world to save yourself, nigga? Yeah, I ain't think that was wise. Something to think about the next time you thugging, drinking and drugging, hard liquor, you full of killers. Remember, I tried to give you the large picture. Hold up, man. He gonna get this work. Your pops wasn't gangster.
Yeah.
He was just another lost nigga. You think it's gangster to let a mother love that dope more than her daughter? Shoot a father from his son, then turn around and put that boy on the corner? Or leave your son out there alone to fend for himself, knowing he need order? Is your money being long worth your lifespan being shorter? But I'm just trying to give you the large picture. Your pops wasn't gangster. He was just another lost nigga.
Another lost
Gangster
nigga.
brothers like Marcus Garvey, who, when he performed lectures, rise the consciousness of from doing wrong, putting us in uniforms, making us soldiers in God's army.
That's powerful. Now see,
you gonna get this work.
No, that's
you gonna
dope.
get this work.
I don't know that verse. I don't know the verse, but I know the reference. That's how crazy it is. I don't even watch battle rap, but I know that parts of that verse and the "you gonna get this work." I know that refrain, and I don't even watch battle rap. So yes, you're right. It is very powerful because other people I've heard talk about it, speaking in intellectual circles, referencing that very same rap that you just did. So yes, it is very powerful, and I take the message. I never watched battle raps because not enough of them were like that.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying? It was too much
gun bars,
bullshit.
killing,
you know what I'm
yes.
saying? Like regular rap. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but that was extremely powerful. All right,
and that's
bro,
what I'm saying. Be outside of the norm. You don't have to follow the flock. These guys talking about gun shooting and punching niggas and smoking, but you come up there and you tell a nigga like what he doing, that shit don't benefit nobody, himself or even the culture.
That's beautiful, bro. That's beautiful. And that actually gives me a great segue into our next segment, which is our crown check. All right. But right before we go into the crown check, I want to make sure I take a moment of silence and make it real noisy. I want to make sure I point this out. We're talking about the fallout of the Diddy trial. And I just want everybody to realize that allegedly Diddy got took down, so he was going to take down everybody else with him, right? You know what I'm saying? And people talked about, oh, how Diddy was going to talk and this and that and blah, blah, blah. I just want to point out to everybody, don't miss what just happened. None, as in zero, of the other elites that was supposedly drugging and sexually assaulting people, zero of them were exposed. And Diddy is supposedly in a RICO. Bad Boy is owned by Arista. Why is Clive Davis not in the RICO? I'm going to just let y'all think about that. You understand what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, nobody's talking about that. None of these other people were exposed. And Diddy is, if Diddy is in a RICO and it's supposedly under his companies, then the parent company should also be in the RICO, right? All right, then. I'm just saying. So we're going to go into the crown check right now because that is what we do. This is one of my favorite segments of the show. And today, since we are talking about the law, I want to go ahead and talk about our good sister, Miss Jane Bolin. Jane Bolin was the first Black woman to graduate from Yale Law School. Just one of her list of long achievements. She was also the first Black woman who was a judge, and she also was a part of the civil rights movement. She became a judge in 1939. She was the only Black judge for 20 years, and this sister was down. You know, she challenged discrimination in her position as a judge. She had a white parent, but she didn't allow that to make her conform to whiteness. She didn't, fall back and just allow Negroes to be harmed. She was a part of the struggle. And I really want to salute this sister, a very valuable sister, the first to join the New York City Bar Association and the New York City Law Department as well. Very accomplished sister. We need more sisters out here behaving like this because unfortunately, as you saw, in that last video, we got a lot of sisters out here that, you know, they get out here and twerk when people throwing baby oil at them. And, you know, this sister right here did something very powerful. The first Black female judge, one more time, first graduate from Yale Law School that was a Black woman as well. Very, very powerful sister on this crown check, Miss Jane Bowling. All right, now y'all go ahead and close us out real quick. We're good to go.
Yeah, you know, great crown check, man. Super dope. And this goes back to what I was talking about to our guests that came on, our featured guest that Bobby Drake had put on. And I said, where are those women? Where are the examples of that? We see the Cardi B's, we see all the Megan Goods, and shout out to the people that was pointing out the bullshit with Cardi B. You notice that she took down all her pictures of this dude that she was dating. And remember, the Godfather, shout out to the Godfather. The Godfather was always telling women, and he was giving y'all good game and y'all hated on him.
Yeah.
But he told you, you could only exceed the top ceiling of your child's father. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you're seeing right now. So, you know, so definitely, man, shout out to everybody that has been tuning in and getting this great information that we are presenting. And we just want to make our community a lot better in all different aspects and be a part of the change that you want to see. Don't sit here and wait on nobody else to do it. It only takes one person to spark it. Remember, we up here, you know how many people would tell us that we have changed their lives? I know personally I've had gotten that. I know Bobby Drake and I know Major got that personally on their own pages. When you look at Tariq Nasheed, imagine all the minds that he changed into a positiveness just by being that one person that said, you know what, I want to do different. Dr. Umar, however you look at him, even he sparked people to start being intellectual and challenging the system. When you look at all the other, you know, Jason Black and all these Professor Truth, and now you having the spawn and the birth of so many other guys that I don't even really know, but man, they're doing phenomenal jobs as uprising young adults as well. So always be that spark of change that you want to see. Don't worry about the masses. Fuck the masses. Find your tribe and build. And I land my plane on that.
Facts. Well said. Bobby Drake, real quick, take us home.
Yeah, man. Amazing show, amazing subject, very interesting subject. It's very trendy, but you know, obviously there's going to be a whole lot of gossip and the chit chatter that's going to come out of this. A lot of podcasts, a lot of news outlets, a lot of social media pages and profiles are going to be eating off this for a little minute. But the reality is, as adults, we need to grow up beyond just the entertainment value, and we need to get in the point, if we're not there already, when we see things like this, and I'm not going to knock anyone for it. We can, of course, have the hee ha-has, the jokes. We can kind of do a little bit of the chitter-chatter. That's fine. That's healthy to a limited extent. But the most important thing is when we see things like this, we need to be trying to figure out, what lessons can I learn from this? What game is there to be got from this?
Well said.
We need to have that Neely Fuller scholar approach where we're still learning. We're always looking for lessons and understanding the world and how to navigate it. There's a number of lessons that we're supposed to take away from this. The first lesson, the big one, is for men, but it goes for women as well too. Sexual discipline.
Yeah.
Already got to that. I'm not going to belabor that point, but we need to make sure that we are the ones in control of our minds and our actions, not our little heads, male or female. We need to make sure that we're not slaves to our sexual desires and our sexual appetites. And if we do have some issues where we're in positions where our bodies basically have the driver's seat, we need to take a step back. We need to cut ourselves off. Maybe we need to practice some abstinence. Maybe we need to go ahead and, you know, start doing some fasts. Maybe we need to start seeking therapy, whatever the case may be. But anything, no matter what it is, that prohibits you from operating your right mind is a liability.
Yeah.
And if you're so caught up on sex or your lust or your kinks or whatever, where it'll cause you to see danger like this and basically be right there, put yourself in it. Wow, it's crazy. I can't believe that happened to Diddy. Hey, pass that baby all over there. If you can't break away, you are a threat to your own self, and you need to check yourself before you wreck yourself. Number two, the love not the money, but the love of money is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
You need to make sure that your principles are on point. There should not be anything out here that would cause you to sacrifice your principles, your values, your morals just to come ahead. There should be no job. There should be no dollar amount that can coerce you to go ahead and put yourself in positions you shouldn't be in and to compromise yourself and do things that you know you would have deep shame about if you had to look in the mirror over it. Stop letting this belief that there's a certain lifestyle you're supposed to live, you're supposed to have a certain dollar amount in your wallet, that you're supposed to have a certain status level. Stop letting that make you a slave. Don't let men and women alike. There should not be any stories about, well, I have to do this because, it's the only option. There were options, you just didn't like them.
Yeah.
Learn how to fall on the sword for your own sake. You might not get to where you think you should be, or you might not hit the heights that you should reach if you go ahead and compromise, but I guarantee you sleep better and you'll actually like and love the person you see in the mirror. You don't have to feel bad about every dollar that you spend because you got it the right way. Those are two big lessons, that there are many more, but I'm going to challenge us to go ahead in the days and weeks and months to come to look at these situations and really get those gems for ourselves so we can become better people overall.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate y'all for kicking with us another week. You see the info right here. Please hit the like button. Go ahead and share and subscribe. If you haven't already, I don't know why you wouldn't, but go ahead and unless you also try to sign a bad boy and take that. Make sure you join up with Death Row over here and get the word out so we can grow the family. Sorry for our IG crew. You know that Instagram's currently having issues, but that's all right. Please make sure you link up with us here on Instagram. on YouTube. Make sure you also link up with us on Facebook as well too, and get inside our Manifestations 2020 group. We drop great gems all through the week, great positive stories that are uplifting to men and the community as a whole. Come to go ahead and get your mental reset, where you can take off the BS that you had to encounter to get there. This man up here is Major Gage. This man here is Anthony Malcolm. I'm Bobby Drake. We'll see y'all next Sunday, same time, same place, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are Manifestations 2020.
Yeah.
Manifestations. Man up. Manifestations. Man up. Manifestations. Man up. Manifestations.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
Manifestations. Man up. Manifestations. Man up. Manifestations. Man up.
A place where we inform.
Manifestations.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
You gotta eat what you kill. You gotta go out there, you gotta hunt for your meals.
We all have that ability to connect with people, to be that motivational person in somebody's life.
You gotta let people know there's certain lines you don't cross, and that there's gonna be consequences if you do.
Man up.
If you are an adult and you are in a relationship, that person's emotions are not your responsibility.
Man up. Manifestations. Man up. Manifestations. Man up. Manifestations.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
The devil, during slavery, destroyed the masculinity or manhood of the so-called Negro. No man. Right now you got to be trained all over again to be a man.
When someone is obligated to do something, it is binding upon them to do it. And failure to do it causes reaction.
Man up.
Position make you rich. I don't have that type of richness. My richness is life forever.
If that people knew that glorious path, if that people knew that glorious path, if that people knew that glorious path, then they would be more inclined to respect themselves.
I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job, is to spark somebody else watching us.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
Manifestations. Man up. Manifestations. Man up. Manifestations. Man up.
A place where we inform.
Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
You want to tell me about yourself? Go get your friends. I'll tell you who you are based on who your friends are.
Don't just live and die. That's an ugly existence. Make your life matter, make your life count. Live a life where people can actually mourn you for the things you left behind, not just because you were around and existed.
We need strong black nuclear family.
Yes. Yes.
That's what it is. Mother, father, son, daughter, all in the same house with a focus on the family unit as a whole.
We had Tulsa, Atlanta, New Jersey, Detroit. We had Rosewood. We had Black Wall Streets all over.
The Republicans aren't for us, but the Democrats aren't for us either. And we should have no alliance to any political party. We only have alliance to what is in our own best interest.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
Manifestations. Man up. Manifestations. Man up. Manifestations. Man up.
A place where we inform.
Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
At the end of the day, as men in the community, we must stand together and be counted because people look to us for guidance, leadership, and protection. And if we are not about that business, we are not on our job. Here we have grown-ass man conversations in the spirit of that purpose. Anthony Malcolm, Bobby Drake, Major Gage, we are. This is Manifestations 2020.
Manifestations. Man up. Manifestations.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.